Hi, it's Emily, and I am deeply uncertain about talking direct to camera on a channel that is otherwise completely silent. So yeah, but I said I'd do one of these Q&As and I've been putting it off for ages, so here we are. Yeah, if I don't look at the camera much, or if I stop looking at the camera, it's probably because I'm thinking about talking at 1,000 people. So bear with me on that. But yeah, I have the questions, although my computer's probably fallen asleep. Yeah, I have the questions, and hopefully I won't overshare. If I overshare, there will be lots of cuts, but we'll see how it goes. So, let's have a look. I'm going to start with an easy one, because some of these are a bit deep. Here's an easy one. How do you film? What equipment do you use? That's very easy. I use the equipment I have. So I've done, over 200 of these daily writing study sessions, whatever you want to call them. And so the camera I have that I'm filming this on is a Sony, don't know the make, Sony Handycam. I got it years and years ago to take on trips. This is oversharing already. We may go on a lot of tangents, apologies. So the reason that I got a Handycam, like a camcorder rather than a camera, is because if you're on an expedition with people you don't know very well, if you point a camera at people, they tend to freeze because they think you're taking a photo and everybody gets self-conscious about that kind of stuff. Whereas if you point a video camera at people, suddenly everybody waves and is happy. So that's kind of why I got that. But you don't care about that. Anyway, that's what I use. For the first maybe 3 months at least, I didn't have a tripod, so I was balancing the camera on top of the dehumidifier in this room, which is just off screen. So I did that for ages, and then have just very recently saved up some money and upgraded to a tripod, which is a Hellooo travel tripod, which has been great so far. And other equipment, I've got a Rode, like the cheapest Rode mic on top of the camera. It was given to me as a present, again, years and years and years ago. I put it on auto when I'm filming like the writing videos. I might use that audio for this, but I'm recording on this as well because that's how I normally do my voice note podcast, and we'll see which I use. I honestly don't know what's better. What else? Alright, I feel like I've warmed up a bit, so we'll do the long one. Somebody asks, I'd really like a general introduction, like name, age, where you live, what you do for a living, what are your hobbies, who got you into book writing, etc. Okay, that's big. I'll start the small one. My name is Emily. It's written on every single video. Yeah. Nice to meet you. I am 31 years old. I live in the southwest of the UK, where the pasties are good. And what I do for a living, I'm a freelancer, so I have done lots of things over the past few years. I was working in travel during COVID, and then very swiftly wasn't. So at the moment, I freelance in writing and editing and sort of bits of marketing, I suppose, but broadly most of my clients are adventure magazines. So I do the sub-editing, which is a bit like proofreading but a bit more in depth for Well, I can show you. Let me show you. So, who's this? One of my clients is Sidetrack magazine. They do sort of like, I want to say luxury adventure. It's a very premium magazine, around about 100 pages, but they do exploration, epic things that you couldn't do it commercially, those kind of trips, like exploration and crazy bike packing things. And there was one we had recently where they were paragliding to the top of mountains and then skiing back down again, those kind of things. That's one. And then, do I have any upstairs? I was wrong. It was here all along. Here's good. Like the Wind magazine, who are, again, a pretty premium, independently run magazine, but they focus on running stories. So not just trail or ultra, it's also track running and I guess more the community around running rather than running itself. But again, I digress. So those kind of things, I do the sub-editing for that. I've also been a journalist, again freelance, working roughly in the adventure travel space. So, like what? Like I've written for magazines, like print magazines, online magazines, and then also UK national newspapers a few times. Yeah, broadly adventure travel, outdoors, some gear reviewing, mostly features though, I'd say. But if you've been listening to my voice note podcast on Substack or any other app apparently, I have been also doing minimum wage jobs just to have the certainty to pay my mortgage. And I say that in full honesty because a lot of people, when I tell them what I do for a living, are completely awestruck and think it's amazing. And sometimes it really is, but the harsh reality is that the income is very, very up and down. So when you've got a big outgoing like a mortgage, for me it helps my my peace of mind to know that I've always got some income coming in. So yeah, there's that. Honestly, I would love to be able to go back to writing for a living. I used to be a staff writer before COVID, and that was fantastic, but you do get a bit burnt out, so I don't want to glorify that either. I would love to get to the stage where I can write books for a living and have that pay for everything. And actually I should probably include that here as well. I have self-published a book. I wouldn't count that as doing it for a living. I get something like 50 quid a month off it. But that's been consistent for, I think I published it in 2019, something like that. So it's not bad for not trying. It's not bad at all. And this year I've finished publishing, well, no, not publishing. So I got commissioned by a publishing company to do a guidebook for the Toubkal area of Morocco. Again, that's like hiking, mountaineering, well, like easy-ish winter mountaineering. And so I've finally, after 2 years in the making, finished that book. It's been submitted. It's coming out in April. I'm hoping to come up with some sort of pre-order thing, but just haven't thought about it yet, even though it's the 20th of March, so I really ought to get on and think about it. And in theory that will also help pay my bills, but because it's done on a royalties basis, I've no money up front, and then will be getting my first royalty check, not in April, but in August. So it doesn't feel like it's part of my what makes a living, honestly. What are my hobbies? So, hobbies-wise, I could list off a whole load of things, but if I'm being honest, I haven't done them in like 3 or 4 years, so if you just met me, you totally wouldn't know that. So I guess, walking, camping, hiking, sleeping on the floor, climbing ridiculous mountains. I don't really rock climb. Like, I have, but I wouldn't call myself a climber. I go running sometimes, but I wouldn't call myself a runner. Like, I guess if you set me down in the mountains somewhere, I could very happily, walk 20 miles a day every day with a tent and stuff and just go forever. And I'm also, I think this overlaps with another question, but I'm also in mountain rescue. So that's voluntary emergency services for anyone not in the UK, but just in the mountains rather than like other things. And I guess you might say that doing up my house before it falls down again is one of my hobbies. It doesn't feel like a hobby, and in the same way mountain rescue doesn't really feel like a hobby. It feels more like a job sometimes. I love it, don't get me wrong, but things can be full on. It can easily take over your life, as can fixing this house. For people who've been around long enough, you will have seen this wall before all the plaster fell off. But yeah. And who got me into book writing, etc.? I got me into book writing. So this almost sounds too cliche, but I'll tell you it anyway because it's the truth. One night when I was I must have been 11. I'm really gutted that I can't find the piece of paper I wrote this down on with a date, but never mind. When I was about 11, I had a dream that was so good, I woke up in the morning and I knew it was a book, and I wrote it out thinking that it was going to be this amazing book. Fantasy. And it was like half a page of A4. And I remember distinctly looking at it and being like, oh, why are you not longer? And that's what made me want to become a writer. I woke up that day and knew that I wanted to become a writer. And did, I guess. Yeah. Did that kind of answer that question? Yeah, like, I got myself into it. I mean, I used to read voraciously. We will come on to books in a minute, but I suppose influences in terms of books, I read a lot of Sherlock Holmes stories when I was about 8, and so those are obviously written as if they're written by one of the characters, Dr. Watson. So I guess that was a sort of a writer influence. I want to be the one who tells these tales. In a similar way-ish, I guess, Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events. I loved those books. I would save up my birthday money to buy one every year when they came out. And yeah, he again, the author well, kind of not the author, but the narrator is writing the events and crafting the story. I don't know, I guess, yeah. I've never really thought about it like that much. I've just... It's I guess it's almost a compulsion sometimes. I've always got stories happening in my head. I think that's part of the problem, actually. Because, I mean, there's creating stories, and then there's having characters, and then there's physically writing those things down. And I have got at least 20 books, fiction books, in my head. And they're not anywhere near finished, and some of them I don't know what the plot line is or anything, but I know that there's a story in that. And it honestly scares me, the thought that I might never get to write them all. And that would be really sad. Because, I mean, without being too morbid, time doesn't slow down, so if I don't make time for it now, when will I ever make time for it? And what if I never made time for it? Even if I wrote 1 book a year, which at the moment I'm not even averaging, I would, like, that would be it, that would be all the stories. It would take 20 years, that's what I'm trying to say. It would take 20 years to write all those ideas if I was doing 1 book a year. And then, that just seems rubbish. Frankly, it seems rubbish. That's not all the books I want to write. I'm sure I've got more and better ideas than the ones that have been lurking around for, I don't know, the past 10 years. Some of them are a bit newer than that, but a lot of them. So that's kind of why I took the jump and decided to pursue that. Or rather pursue the act of... I'd spent a long time saying that I was writing a book, but not actually doing any writing. And I'm sure lots of us are guilty of that, but it's very easy to say that your number 1 priority is to finish this book, and then not act as though it's your number 1 priority. So I decided that I made the commitment to myself that I would start acting like it was my number 1 priority. And that's kind of why I started doing these daily writing videos, to try and keep myself accountable to actually sit down and write every day. And I'm not saying at all that that's all the writing I do, and I'm not saying that I'm writing new things in every one of those videos, because sometimes I'm editing. Honestly, sometimes at the moment I've been doing freelance work because I just can't fit it all into the day. But I'm making the commitment to show up and try, and I hope that's useful to other people too. It seems in the very few comments I get that it is helpful having, you know, the hour and a half blocked out just to sit and focus on whatever it is you're working on. There's a whole other bit to that story, but we can go into that some other time. I skipped a lot in the middle. Anyways, who's next? What kind of books are in your personal library? Well, let me show you. I've actually got a whole nother shelf that's out of screen that's got all of my favourite books in. Mostly fiction, but it's out of screen, so I'm not going to show you that. It's in no order at all, honestly. It's just what fits where. So these are all university and school notes, A-level notes, that one day I'm going to bind into beautiful hardback books, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah, I've got all sorts, really. I guess it's mostly non-fiction. I've got some fiction, Angie Sage, Septimus Heap, my second copy of the Silmarillion, Piranesi, Susanna Clarke. I love Susanna Clarke's books. What else? What else? Random. I collect random books about plot structure and yeah, just all sorts of things about the craft of writing. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of them. I don't really often use it, but it's interesting to have somebody else tell you how they think about writing books, I think, because then you can usually learn something from a book like that, even if you don't agree with it or agree with the overall thesis of the book. So yeah, let's see what else. This is all writing stuff. I've got a whole section of maps, guidebooks, whole load of gardening books, whole load of like knitting. Yeah, just it's all really messy, honestly. Illustrated works of Lewis Carroll. It's a prize book. Whole load of adventure-y book stuff. Yeah, just things really. Things. One day I will get around to making it all look pretty, but honestly I don't know when that day is going to be. And then I've got a whole load of DVDs and things, because I decided recently, not that recently, I guess a few years ago, that, I mean, I collect books for many. Alright, I'll tell you. I collect books because books need good homes. Books are better than wallpaper. And I like to collect stories. Usually the fiction that I own is because I've loved the book already and bought it to kind of collect it into the library. Or in cases like the Lemony Snicket, Susanna Clarke, authors who I've loved their first book and then just buy everything else they write because it's been so good. I do occasionally get sent books for review and things like that, but I don't like to review books because everybody's tastes are so different, and I don't think there's... is that true? I think there are very few books in the world that are objectively bad. Most are just the right thing at the right time, and the matching of what the author is trying to say and what the person who's reading it needs or wants to hear at the time. There are certainly disappointing books, don't get me wrong, but anyway, I got distracted. I was trying to tell you about DVDs, wasn't I? Yeah, so I collect books, but why do I not collect movies? Because some have been just as influential in my writing. For example, I've got a whole load of adventures like The Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean, Tomb Raider, Count of Monte Cristo, those kind of things. Just because I don't subscribe to any streaming services or anything, and I'd like to be able to just sit and watch a DVD without the internet. I'm pretty analogue as people go, not least because the internet connection around here is just so slow. But yeah. Yeah? Does that answer the question? Books? Lots of books. You can't have too many books either, by the way. Yeah, you don't have too many books, you just don't have enough walls. If you buy too many books, you just need more bookshelves. And then if you run out of walls, you have to move house. Will you ever do any videos talking about the hiking and rescue you do? So, maybe. I've got hours of footage from all of the adventures I've been on over the past 10 years. And I always mean to make films out of them, but I haven't yet. So, well, I did one for the All the Tours for the BMC did a Women in Adventure film competition. And I got shortlisted for that, and that was my first ever film. So, maybe I should pursue it, but honestly I prefer to write. I'm not really into videos talking about things much. I can understand it from an educational point of view, but like there's so much on YouTube that is so self-serving, and maybe that's just what the algorithm is sending me, but I kind of don't want to add to that, which is kind of why I've put off, oh I got something in my eye, which is kind of why I have put off this, talking to you directly, and kind of why I started my channel actually, because so much of the stuff that I saw on YouTube about writing was telling you how you should write, or talking about, you know, something you could watch that would distract you from writing, but no one actually trying to help you to put aside time to do the writing. And also a lot of people, maybe not a lot, maybe that's unfair, but the things that I saw were romanticising being an author, whereas, I don't know, my experience of being a writer has been just, like, it's a fight. It's a fight against entropy, it's a fight against having the order and the stability and even the money to be able to set aside time to create something that might never get published, might never get read by anyone else, might never get bought. So yeah, I just wanted to do something different, I guess, be the training montage in real time. What else have we got? I think, is there just the one more? Yeah, one more question. What is your goal in life? Nothing like an existential crisis on a Friday afternoon. What is my goal in life? Well, I guess that my goal in life is to leave the world a better place than when I came into it. And I guess in the less existential way, to write fantasy books, fantasy and adventure books, and hopefully to have somebody else read them. Because, I don't know, it's weird. When I was a kid, I read loads of books, and a lot of them were written by typically like dead Victorian men, or round about that era. I've got loads of beautiful, not loads, but some of my favourite books are the cloth-bound books from about the 1930s-ish, where they've got the really thin paper, and that I think it's lithographic printing press thing, and the gold on the covers, those kind of books. And they were written by people who, I guess that's it, I was captured by the idea that you can speak to somebody across, I don't know, 100 years who you've never met and you never will meet, but you can share an emotion and empathy, I suppose, and and entertain and all these things and educate, whatever, but just there's something really magical about that. And it's not, nothing is for everyone in terms of stories, but the idea that there is somebody out there, some 12-year-old, who just like I did would find my book transformative, I don't know, just it's that thing again of being the right book in the right moment to the right person can mean the world, and the chance to be able to do that with my stories would be incredible. So maybe one day. How long have we been going on for? Half an hour of ramble, okay. I'm tempted to go on, but I'm not sure whether I should because this video is already quite long. I mean, suffice to say, thank you for all subscribing. It's completely bonkers to have 1,000 people watching me. Never mind anyone else. I want to be honest. My aim is to hopefully get the channel monetized so that 1, I can control where the adverts go, and 2, I can get a little bit of money from it, so that hopefully I can find a way to sustain writing without having to work 100 other jobs just to be able to write. So that's the plan, kind of. Thank you so much for even tuning in. We've got far enough that I have memberships or something unlocked, and shopping. I don't really know what that is. But it required something like 3,000 watch hours, so that's pretty incredible. Thank you for putting aside that time to work on your own projects, never mind spending it with me. And yeah, I might turn memberships on, but honestly, I have no idea what I could offer that would be valuable, that you would want to subscribe to for like however much a month, so I might, but I don't know yet. And if you would like to help, please, 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 just tell a friend, somebody else who might benefit from this, from spending an hour and a half writing or doing art or studying or whatever it is that you want or need to do, and the world is trying to stop you. And if you would like to know more, if you'd like to follow my journey a bit more closely in terms of what I'm working on at the moment and what my plans are for the future, because I realise I haven't talked about any of that in this, I have a voice note diary that I put on Substack, but I think it sends it to like Spotify and all sorts of other things, but basically it's a short voice note every day about what writing I've done, basically. It's supposed to try and keep me, the same thing, trying to keep me accountable, because it feels really bad when you spend day after day saying no writing today, no writing today, no writing today, which honestly has been me for a while now. But hopefully I'm going to get back on track now. I've started a new job recently, so I've been finding it hard to re-find my rhythm, but hopefully soon I will be back to doing this. So thank you for keeping me accountable. I will commit to trying harder to get these sessions done and put on the internet. That's the hard thing, really. It takes a long time to process the videos, and I did try doing lives, but it just doesn't work for me. So, and it looks hideous as well, frankly. So I will try to get back on a rhythm with that. And yeah, thanks for being here. If you've got any more random questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I may or may not answer them, but it's always nice to hear from people, as long as it's relevant. Please keep it relevant. Yeah, I think that's it. Bye.